So, a few weeks before the release of the third episode, my dog Cooper started to get very, very, very sick. It came literally out of nowhere, but it wasn't shocking because he was 12, and he was a boxer lab. In boxer labs, they tend to have a life expectancy of anywhere between 12 to 15. So, and last year in 2020, Cooper was actually having a lot of different problems. He was having some kidney problems with kidney stones, and he was unable to control his bladder. Had to take him to the vet a few times for that. And then his allergies last year were awful, 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 awful. And we had to keep taking him back to the vet every so often to get shots. And he would sneeze a lot, and he just wasn't feeling well. And we honestly thought that that was going to be the end last 2020 summer. Thankfully enough, we had a date set actually for Cooper to go to sleep, and the vet said, give me 2 more weeks under this certain treatment, and I think we can turn things around here. And Cooper was really struggling to get up to. Arthritis was starting to really set in, especially with his back legs, and we saw everything that was going on, and we thought, oh man. Even the nurse thought like it's possible, but she wasn't all the way sold, and none of us were really sold. And it was like the days leading up to the appointment that we set were just excruciating. But 48 hours before, like I said, the vet reached out and said, hey, listen, I've been really thinking about it. Give me 2 weeks on this new medical plan, and we'll go from there. Hella expensive. I said, fuck it. Because if anyone that knows me knows, Cooper's like my son. Cooper was my son. And I never intend to have human children. I only plan to be a fur dad. That's the extent of any sort of fatherhood that I'll ever experience. And I'm okay with that. And so I did whatever it took for Cooper, and I worked like a madman, and I didn't actually, but I lied, cheat, and steal to do whatever it took to make sure that he was healthy. And then, fuck, sure enough, he came around, and all I wanted was one last Christmas with him and one last, you know, his birthday, my birthday. His birthday's February 2nd, mine's the 5th of March. I was just wanting that one more round, essentially. And we got it. And we had such a great Christmas, and it was amazing. And it was such a gift more than anything else, especially because this Christmas was the first Christmas that I was just with my dad, since I dissolved my relationship with the woman who gave birth to me side of the family and herself. As you notice, I don't refer to her as mother because, quite frankly, she doesn't deserve that title. So it was a really difficult Christmas for me, but what really kept it together was knowing I had one more Christmas with Cooper and my dad. And these are the people that I love the most in life, and that's what mattered the most. So I was very, very blessed and very grateful to have that. Leading into the new year, we got another birthday. February 2nd came. Cooper was in good health. It was awesome. We had another birthday. And then my birthday hit. And then it all started falling downhill. And he started developing a cough, and the cough was getting worse and worse. And we found lumps underneath his throat and in his chest. It was so like, Mike, you could feel them. And just going back to it now, these memories, it's, man, that feeling was just awful. You just knew. You knew it was cancer at that point, and you knew time was ticking. So we brought him to the vet. I knew the deal. I knew it was time, and I just wanted the vet to do his due diligence and confirm to me what I already knew in my heart. Because when you know, you know. Sometimes you know a little too late. Sometimes you know right on time. I knew. The vet said to me, oh, we want to run a battery of tests and this and that, and we want to do like scans and this procedure and that procedure. I'm like, doc, no, I'm sorry. You know as well as I do that this dog has cancer. It's lymphoma. I'm not a vet, but I'm not stupid. I can tell the dog's coughing, he's hacking. Uh, there's lumps under his throat. He's developing a turkey neck. Like everything's falling apart really quickly here. He's 12 years old. Don't try to milk me for the last little bit of money by doing all these procedures to tell me what we already know. He didn't like that, and we set a date, and because he's like, oh, then fine. The only option is that we have to put the dog to sleep. And I said, thank you. And he made me feel really awful about making that decision. And then I spoke with the nurse after, and I'll never reveal the veterinarian clinic. I have no intentions of throwing them under the bus, but those that know me know. And if you know, don't fucking go there. This doctor's a fucking asshole. But the nurse is an incredible woman, and I'll defend her till the end of day. I don't give a fuck what anybody says about her or lumps her in with him. No, she called me back not too much after and said, "You're right. It's lymphoma. There's no coming back on this. And you setting a date and you doing what's right is the best thing for Cooper and the best thing for you." And once that news came to light, I just didn't have it in me anymore to do anything, because from that moment on, my world stopped. And it became more important to me to spend every last moment with him possible. But I set the date a little too far. I should have probably even done it the day he went to the vet that day. But, it's how do you how do you say goodbye to the person that you love more than anything in this world? It's just hard, especially when you have to make the decision to have that happen. It's one of the most difficult decisions you can ever make in your life. And any animal owner or even any family member who has a as a member of their family that's requested doctor assisted suicide, like that's so fucking hard, because in this country doctor assisted suicide is legal, and it can happen under circumstances approved by doctors. But with but but with animals, it's no different to me. So I set the date out for 2 weeks because I had a lot of things I had going on with work, and I thought maybe, I could just get a little more time in and everything will be okay. And all of a sudden, one evening, the night before he was supposed to go, and to kind of give more context, so the vet wouldn't allow me to come in with Cooper on his final day. He told me because of COVID, no dice, no one's allowed in here. I'm sorry. And the idea of passing off Cooper to the vet as if it's a vet visit, but him not coming back out the other side, just, it made things even worse. Because do you want to be there? Do you want to see the life leave the one you love the most? Do you want to have that scarred and embedded into your brain? Or do you want your last memory of your animal to be alive, but taken away by the vet? And then that's all you see. And I really wrestled with it and really wrestled with it. And I spoke to a ton of different people that offered various opinions. Some people were very much on the mindset of, you know what, it is nice to see them alive as your last memory. It's too hard for some people, there's no shame in that. And then there's other people that's just like, no, if you love him, you go in there and you're with him. So the night before Cooper was set to pass away, he told me no. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I'm gaming, playing Grand Theft Auto with my best friend Alan. And I had the door open to my room because even my dad kind of knew, because dad took the day off the next day, obviously, but he stayed up. It was 11 o'clock and he stayed up, and it was a weekday. And it was actually March 25th, because it was March 26th when Cooper passed. But he stayed up. I stayed up with the door open, like we knew. and all of a sudden the most awful sounds you could imagine coming from your animal was happening, like his coughing, because he had cough fits, but it would be like a couple coughs done, maybe a couple hours would go by, a couple coughs done. This was like he was choking on his own breath, like he couldn't breathe whatsoever, like he was like, I literally thought he was going to die in my arms. Like I've never felt like I'm an anxiety sufferer, and we're going to go through, men's mental health and whatnot, especially because June is Men's Mental Health Month, and we're going to speak about that shortly coming up. But I have never experienced the frightening terror of the anxiety that I was given that night. I just immediately grabbed my phone. My body shook like it never shook before. I had no idea what to do. I'm petting him to try and get him to calm because I think he's panicking too. And he feels that we're panicking. It's just a fucking rigmarole of people panicking. And I was given a number for an after hours clinic to call, and these people would come to your house. I'm calling and calling and calling. No one's fucking answering. Nightmare scenario. We had the backup plan to avoid the nightmare scenario, and they're not fucking answering. And if you know who you are and you're ever listening to this, fuck you, because you're a 24/7 vet and you didn't answer the phone for whatever the reason was. And trust me, I called often enough that you should have answered the damn phone. You're a disgusting human waste for offering a 24/7 service and not being available or not even calling back. You saw 25 missed calls at least, and you didn't even as much as call back. I left you voicemails and text messages. So if you ever hear this, fuck you. Moving on. The panic's continuing. I don't know what to do. So then I started calling emergency vets, emergency clinics in my area, and I was directed to the clinic that I ended up taking Cooper to in Mississauga, and it was it was all happening so fast. I went back onto the game because I told Alan something's happening. He was still in the game chat. I came back to the game. I said, Alan, can you come and pick me and Cooper up? We need to take him to his final resting spot. And he immediately came through in the van, and we quickly went downstairs, and we all had our family last walk, and dad was with us. And I feel so bad for my dad because my dad didn't want to go, but his last memory of Cooper is seeing the van drive away. Like that's tough, because getting into the whole ride was fucked. I'm sitting there calm as can be, just petting him because Cooper's like excited and at the same time sick, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he's very confused. And leading into going into the shop, especially, like we get to the vets, and these people were so nice, they were so sweet and so kind, and they let us come in. I even said, I'm like, can I come in? And they kind of looked at me like, that wasn't ever an option for you? Of course you can come in, what the fuck are you talking about? And it was so morbid because it's like, you know, you're about to lose someone that means so much to you, but you're given all these pamphlets and all these things to start picking out his urn and his paw print and all these different things while he's kind of confused and going around your feet and coughing. And then to experience the vet giving you as much time as you need to have your final goodbyes, and it's just like, what do you say? Like, what do you do? um and you can take as much time as you need, but you don't want to be too selfish with the time either. And then you wonder, did you take enough time, did you take too little time? And I just kneeled down, spent like 2 minutes with him, and just held him really tight and just said, I'm so sorry, buddy. Like, I'm so sorry that this is happening. And I love you and like thank you for everything because like I don't know if people know, but Cooper was my light. Cooper was my light in some of the darkest times in my life. I got Cooper when I was uh, I'm bad with math. I'm sorry. I got him in like 2009 and 2010 or so. Uh, and I was at such a low point in my life. Like I was dealing with substance abuse. I was living with one of my best friends, Jimmy. Shout out to Jimmy. Love you, buddy. And I was I don't know how he put up with me because I was just so low, and just going out and drinking every weekend and having one night stands and this and that, just trying to do anything to take a pain away. And then one day I'm just like, you know what? I want a dog. I've never had a dog. I want a dog. And I went on Kijiji, which is like a classified section in Canada for those international listeners wondering what the fuck Kijiji is. And I saw his ad and I saw it posted several times for different various prices. There was like 350 and 300 and so on and so forth until it got to 100. So I had messaged the lady and she told me what he was about and said, you know, I'm a single mom that just recently got, you know, split up with my husband, and I'm living in a one bedroom apartment. I'm working 10-hour days. He's a 15-month-old dog with a lot of energy, and he spends most of his time in his kennel. It's just not fair to him. So I'm just looking for a proper home for him, but I just want someone to buy the kennel because the kennel was $100. So I said, yeah, bring him on over and let's have a meeting and we'll go from there, sort of thing. And I'll never forget it. He hopped out of the car and he ran right to me right away. And he did his thing where he like leans into you, and he leaned into me for dear life. I just passed the lady the $100 right there and said, yeah, we're good here. This dog stays with me. And she was okay with that. And we chatted for a little bit and she said her goodbyes. And then that started my journey with him. And I didn't stay in Barrie that much longer after that. I ended up moving back home to Milton, where I introduced Cooper to my dad and brought him into our home. And then that's when we became a bigger family at that point. And my dad took to Cooper right away. Right away. He almost like took over in a way, which, you know what, at the I resented a lot for many years, but I look back on it in retrospect now because I'm healthier and more sound mind. I was in no mind. Like dad was on it. Dad like walked him every time he needed walked. And it's not that I didn't, it's just that he created such a regiment routine. And it was very difficult for me to do any sort of regiment routine. And he really helped out and he really stepped up and he really gave Cooper the love that I wasn't really necessarily capable of giving him at that point because I just was so dead inside. And I'm so thankful for that because it did so many great things for my dad. It got him like, because he has back problems and whatnot, and it got him out of the house more and walking and loosening his back up when he's not working and so on and so forth. And they just created a bond that was very, very special. So, how do you sum all that up in like 2 minutes when you're sitting there about to put your best friend and your first son to sleep? You just don't. So I just did what I could. And like I said, I hugged him, kissed him, told him some things. I called the doctor in, and then they brought him into the back room and they inserted him with the IV. And these are the things that are like the hardest for me to talk about because after it happened, these were the images that were stuck in my mind the whole time, was like seeing him walk back to me with the IV in his arm. And sorry, excuse me for a second. And just seeing that IV in his arm was so tough. And then they were so sweet. And they brought a blanket and they laid a blanket down, and then you just sat there and petted him while the vet walked you through what was going to happen. And um, It's okay. This is good. This is good for me to do. But seeing all that shit go into him, so scarring. Seeing that fucking liquid that's killing my dog, and then like I'm just losing it at this point, like just bawling out of control, petting him, going, "It's okay," but because he, in typical Cooper fashion, he's growling the whole time. He was very unsure about other people and whatnot, but like it's so like, and he was very vocal, and it was so like him, and he's just growling the whole time, and I'm like, "It's okay, buddy. It's okay, buddy," and then the growling stopped and just I was just I wasn't face to face with him. The room didn't really allow it. I was on the side of him and I was just petting him and feeling that last breath go out of his body and then almost feeling like his spirit go into mine. Oh man, such a surreal feeling. And I just didn't know what to do at that point. I like some people I know they stick around with their pet after and whatnot. But I leaned in and I kissed him and I told him I loved him again. And I asked the doctor if that was all they needed from me. And they said they did. And then I had to leave. I just had to leave the room. And then I took 2 steps outside and I fell right to my knees and just bawled uncontrollably like fuck. And those images stuck with me for fucking weeks after. And it's only like it was only as of late where those memories stop, and I was so haunted by it that I was wondering if it was ever going to stop haunting me. And everybody tells you the same story that's gone through this. They're just like, yeah, it'll stop. And I'm thankful it did, because man, I was a shell of myself for weeks. There's no fucking way I could have done this show. I have such a weird relationship with death, especially, but to have someone that close to me leave this world when I only got, I mean, I'm so blessed to have, it was like 10 and a half years I had with Cooper. And I'm so blessed to have that time with him. But it's like, it's not fucking fair. It's just not fucking fair. And, yeah, I honestly didn't know if I was ever going to do this again. I honestly didn't know what the fuck I was on autopilot, man. I was on fucking autopilot. I would just go to work and I would just come home and I wouldn't really talk to anybody. I wouldn't really message anyone. And shout out to people like Leslie Cooper. You have such a great last name, by the way. Um, and Alan and I know I'm gonna forget people, but Brad O'Brien, so many different people. Yourself, um, so many people that were just so good to me during that process and so understanding. And there'd be times where I wouldn't message you back for days and whatnot. And to some people, they would just turn their backs and take it personally. And the fact that the majority, and like I said, I know I'm forgetting names. I'm so emotional right now. I just can't think of any of the names off the top of mind. But I really appreciate everyone who supported me during that time. And shout outs to my work family. That was so great to me. And they did a really nice card for me. Excuse me. They did a really nice card for me, and they gave me some time off that I really desperately needed at that point because I was doing stupid hours. And that's a whole story for another day. Just another day as a pot shop manager. But yeah, it was very difficult in the weeks and days after. But someone said something to me that really resonated with me. Shout out to Nina Hargrave in Australia. God, I can't tell you what you mean to me and how much I love and appreciate you. But she basically tiptoed around the line, and I'm paraphrasing at this point, was saying like, Cooper was your light for so long until he realized that you could be your own light. Once he realized you could be your own light, he felt like he could go peacefully at that point. He knew that you were safe and that you were good and that you could take care of yourself. Because I want to say like midway through 2020 is when I started really taking care of myself. I had a spiritual awakening in 2019 and kind of like went through like the motions, but it was not until like summer of last year when he needed me and I just stepped up and I just became, I don't know, I just evolved in this a different person, a different way of thinking, and it just carried on and snowballed and snowballed. And I have my career job now as a compliance manager in the cannabis industry, and I run my own store, and I'm committed to it, and I love doing it, and I go do it every day, and I don't complain about it. Well, I complain about aspects, but I mean, like, fuck, who doesn't complain about certain aspects of their job? But I love what I do. I finally found my vocation and I found my purpose in life, and doing this podcast and having such wonderful great relationships with people that mean so much to me. I finally felt like I've arrived. And then for him to go was even more gut-wrenching, because it's like, fuck, I finally feel like I'm starting to live life and now his is over. But when Nina told me that, it was really helpful in reminding myself of what our relationship was, and not what it was all was, of course, but what it was really centered around, and why the universe paired us together in the first place, and paired my dad and him, and paired all three of us together. So I just took that with me, and then finally I got his ashes back, and I've just really been able to heal, essentially. And I felt the itch to start doing this again. And I don't know, something was just like, you know what, no, we're going to do things totally different. We're going to do things video, we're going to do things you and we're going to just flow, and we're going to have an air of confidence. We're not going to be scared, we're not going to be nervous. It's just going to be whatever it is. And I do it for him. So I dedicate today's episode to the memory of my dog Cooper, and I dedicate every single episode that we do in his name and his honor. I move forward in this life in his name, and to honor him, and to honor myself and all the light work that he did for me. So if you're an animal owner, or, and I don't even like to use the term animal owner, but if you have a best friend who is an animal that you love near and dear, I want you to hold that friend and love that friend, and don't take a single fucking minute for granted. Because I tell you, when I become a fur dad again, my next fur child, things are going to be much different. And I'm not going to take for granted just the everyday. I'm just not. I just don't. I don't anymore. I don't with anything. I don't with moments with my dad. I spend a lot more time with him. It means more to me. I enjoy doing it. I made sure to do something really special for Father's Day this year, because I don't know if I'm ever going to get another one. You just don't know, because you're not fucking guaranteed tomorrow. So it was important for me to do that. And we'll get into the whole Stanley Cup playoffs and whatnot, but it's been important to watch every single one of those games with him. I mean, I'm not going to be living here for much longer either. So if I can impart any sort of wisdom on anybody, it's just don't take the time for granted with your loved ones, fur or human. Just don't. It's not worth it. Don't let the mundane everydayness of your life affect that. And if it does affect that, find the reason why and get rid of it. If it's a shitty job that you hate, quit that fucking job and go find another one. If it's a partner that's dragging you down, leave that fucking partner, man. Your life is too short. Your life is too short. And life is a beautiful thing. And if you're just not living it to your fullest and your utmost, as much as you possibly can, I would love to say live it to your utmost every day. It's not possible to do it every single day unless you're a fucking gazillionaire. Then hey, all the power to you. But yeah, just don't take the little moments for granted, and just love dearly everyone and anyone that's important to you. And